Johnny Carson's daughter finally confirms the rumors. We all know, or in one way or another, heard about the legendary Johnny Carson and his late-night chat program. For those who don't know him, he's the star or the host of The Tonight Show on NBC, or he was. The charming talk show presenter became famous thanks to his insightful discussions with Hollywood's top stars. The evening was filled with timeless gems and amusing sketches that will live in viewers' memories forever. Johnny's personal life, however, is buried under his virtuous public character. Indeed, the results were ugly. Johnny left a wake of broken families in his wake of celebrity, having 4 wives and 3 boys. Christopher, Corey, and Richard, who died in 1991, may continue resting in peace, are his 3 sons. Jody Walcott, Joanne Copeland, Joanna Holland, and Alexis Moss. The famous performer's unchecked drinking and string of unsuccessful romances had detached his family ties. A tough husband. Johnny's reputation for cruelty went into his private life, where he was abusive to his wife. When he and his 4th wife, Alexis Moss, were on their honeymoon, he became agitated with her. He made the following public statement: "We've been married for 3 weeks, and honestly, I can see and tell that this marriage won't last more than 3 weeks if you keep talking like that." He always demanded attention and respect. This habit continued until it was too much for me to take in, his wife reported, while asking why her husband had made such remarks. More strained relationships. Carson's first marriage resulted in 3 boys. Rick Carson, one of his kids, had problems with his mental health and was hospitalized. Carson refused to visit his kids since doing so made him feel ashamed. Carson's poor behavior was exacerbated by his penchant for drinking in excess. Carson and his son got into public yelling battles while very drunk at the 25th anniversary celebration NBC gave for Carson's program. Luckily, bystanders stepped in before the father and kid got into a violent confrontation. The final straw. Carson's drug problems were well known, and he had a major impact on his private life. Carson was once stopped for a drunk driving ticket in a DeLorean in 1982. He received 3 years of probation and was ordered to attend a substance abuse treatment program for motorists. 60-minute reveal. Even though Carson knew he had a problem, he didn't know how to fix it. It wasn't until a 60 Minutes interview in 1977 that he finally spoke publicly about it. "I don't know how to handle alcohol well at all." Host of late-night talk show, he often used his drug habit as material for jokes. A first romance. Carson and Jody, his future wife, met each other in college. They wed at young ages, and their 3 sons, Corey, Ricky, and Chris, are all young adults now. The marriage was doomed when Carson's stardom and fidelity began to rise. They split in 1963. A second chance at love. Later, Carson met and wed Joanne Copeland, a stewardess and a TV hostess on the show Video Village. This relationship will likely end in disaster despite Carson's best intentions, just like his first did. The doomed relationship. The signs were pointing to the same unhappy ending as his previous marriage. Johnny and Joanne had extramarital relationships throughout their marriage, leading to their separation and eventual divorce in 1972. Despite everything, Copeland stayed committed to Carson and did everything she could to protect Carson's place in television history. Henry Bushkin, Johnny Carson's former attorney, has written a tell-all book on his time working with Carson. There, he broke the shocking news that Frank Gifford, a professional football player, had an affair with Joanne Copeland. According to Bushkin, Carson was devastated to learn this and immediately broke down in tears. Why he won't stop blaming his mom. Many of Carson's shortcomings, he says, come from his mom. His exact words were, "She's the roughest son of a bitch of them all. There's just no way to win her over. Lady Macbeth herself. My wives have always been the source of my marital failures." After her death, he said, "The evil witch is dead," and skipped her burial. The Bachelor. Those who have a chance to be the Bachelor. Carson was a bachelor for a long time after his 3rd divorce, this time from wife Joanna Holland, before tying the knot again. For the first time in 35 years, Carson remained a bachelor between 1983 and 1987. Carson's ladies. Carson's reputation as a womanizer was equally widespread. Carson was spending quality time with Angel Cornwall, an actress and pop star. After his divorce from his 2nd wife, Joanna Holland, his 3rd wife knew everything about his extramarital affairs. Carson's travels brought her various expensive presents, but they also led to the breakup of his marriage. Hate. With Bob Hope's hearing and vision worsening, Carson didn't hesitate to comment on how he hated such conditions. And after Carson found that Hope had been visiting his program, he became more irritated. He even went so far as to tell his authors, "If I ever end up like that, guys, I want you to shoot me." Worst guest. Carson's late-night program attracted numerous celebrities throughout the years. There were certain visitors that he enjoyed having around more than others. Exactly who was it that he invited that made him seem bad? Carson didn't like Bob Hope reading from a prepared script. Johnny's co-head writer, Andrew Nichols, said, "There was nothing spontaneous about Hope. He was the kind of man who would consult his writers on everything." To put it simply, Johnny was lightning fast. Extensive library, excellent reading comprehension. To name a few of his many accomplishments, he became fluent in Swahili, Russian, and astronomy. In his opinion, people who were actively involved in the world were admirable. Bob and I had nothing in common to discuss. Saddened by convictions of guilt. Carson began to feel guilty once he learned about the affair. He reflected on his behavior and wondered whether he'd been a good spouse. "I should have been home more," he said to Bushkin, "not out and about. The 3 children I had with my previous marriage are neglected, and I seldom see them." Bushkin went on a drinking binge with Ed McMahon after he confirmed Copeland's affair to Carson. Kathy Lee Gifford, the co-host of The Today Show, is Frank's wife. Even on the broadcast, she pressed Frank about the affair, and he said he couldn't recall. Break-in. The doorman was thrilled to see Johnny Carson walk through the door, but he refused to let him and his entourage upstairs. Rather, he had the building manager accompany him. On the other hand, Carson could access the flat since the management was more amenable to his demands. The preciseness. Being a lawyer, Bushkin thought he needed a substantial justification before agreeing to the break-in. Carson was questioned whether his wife could afford to pay for the apartment alone, and he said, "No, not really." When asked who was paying for the apartment, Bushkin said, "Then let me propose that you have been. According to that logic, it's your place." A risky break-in. Bushkin also described how Johnny broke into the apartment. Joanne and her boyfriend had leased only a few streets away from their house after learning that Carson had discovered it. The granddaughter Johnny Carson never knew he had. Christopher, one of his sons, spent most of his time in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, pursuing a career as a professional golfer and using his father's monthly allowance to support himself and his affair with Tanina Love Green. They were together for a whole decade, and Tanina became pregnant with their daughter during this time. The king of late night discovered their interracial connection when she was 8 months pregnant and threatened his son by cutting off his money if he didn't cease the relationship. With the fear of losing his lifestyle, Christopher promptly left Tanina and their daughter, Crystal Love. A Florida court eventually ruled that Christopher must provide financial support for Crystal into her adult years, although her grandpa had access to high-quality medical treatment until his death from emphysema in Los Angeles, California, where he left behind an inheritance of $450 million. She had only ever known poverty and Medicaid. She sent him Christmas cards for years, but he always ignored them. Tanina attempted to take Crystal to visit Christopher after she turned 16. He ordered them to leave his land and told them that they were not welcome again. On Johnny Carson's death, Tanina told the National Enquirer, "We never disputed the situation," meaning she always planned to raise Crystal alone. "She's going to be a doctor," Tanina says of Crystal, who she describes as a beautiful woman who's doing well. "She's already completed 4 years of school and wants to finish the full 8. My savings accounts now contain. God is the only one who's had to bail us out of this jam." Tanina thinks the late-night comedian's choice to cut off his grandchild was motivated by racial tensions. "I suppose if I had blonde hair, white skin maybe, and blue eyes, his family would embrace me as their only grandchild," she told the Associated Press in 1987. Herbert Stetton, Christopher's attorney, disagreed. Herbert said Tanina was only interested in using Christopher for financial gain so that she and her 2 other teenage children from prior marriages could live well. But he had only offered her $50 per week, justifying his low offer by stating it would be plenty for a baby of any age. Well, the strange thing about the people who work in the entertainment industry is their lives are always a mystery. Things are always mysterious and you have no idea what's happening. Despite being buddies, Johnny and Henry Bushkin's relationship is tense. How could he get the Presidential Medal of Freedom when he often interviewed celebrities like Ed McMahon? Look, I don't care whether you're Jay Leno, David Letterman, a Super Bowl superstar, a game show presenter, or a Hall of Fame induction. I don't care where you live, Malibu, Burbank, New York City. And I don't care how famous you are. Since his first marriage, Johnny's avoided accepting responsibility for his relationships. Relationships have never been more vital than they are today. After so many lives have been lost, all we can do is love one another as much as we can and stop wasting time being bitter toward one another. Dolly Parton once wrote a song for Carson. It doesn't get good and more legendary than Carson and the queen of Wild West country music in one room. Multiple reports hold that Dolly Parton's performance of a song she wrote for the famed late-night TV presenter is equally legendary. Seeing a legendary figure give honor to an unsung hero is awe-inspiring and humbling. Even as she's risen to the top of the music business, the queen of country music has never been shy about giving credit where credit is due. The country musician, widely regarded as one of the most talented songwriters working today, thanked Carson for his encouragement and praise early in her career. She felt so indebted to him that she dedicated a song to him, singing praises for his role in her success. It was so popular that in 1979, Parton sang it on The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. In their first conversation, Carson compliments the Jolene and I Will Always Love You singer on her devoted fan base and her stardom. Country star responded to his praise by saying that his program was responsible for her popularity. She said, "You have a terrific crowd, and I always look forward to performing for you. I've been anticipating this for the last month because you and I would be excellent friends." The Tennessee native sings in the song she wrote for Carson that she didn't become famous until she appeared on the talk show. Everywhere she goes now, she's recognized as she sings. While playing his guitar, Johnny Carson once said, "I never truly made it until the Johnny Carson show." Carson is so affected by Parton's touching performance that he offers a standing ovation at the conclusion. He gave her a peck on the cheek and expressed his appreciation.